This is the second part of a lesson 11-1. Number 10, this time we are going to find the volume of a solid, and the volume of this rectangular prism is found by multiplying the length times the width times the height. So I have 3 dimensions this time. So I've got this times this times this, and it's going to be inches times inches times inches, so my answer will be in inches cubed. So to write this out, it's 3m n to the third times 8m to the third n times 2n. And so when I go and multiply that, I'm going to have 3 times 8, which is 24, times 2, which is 48. Then I'm going to have m times m times m times m. That's 4 of them so far, and then I don't have any more, so m to the 4th power. And then I'm going to have n times n times n, that's 3, times n, that's n to the 4th, times n, that's n to the 5th power. And so that's the volume of our solid. Okay, number 11, we're going to be going back to practicing some more of these. So do 11 and 12, pause the video, and then come back, and I'll show you how to do those, and then we'll do number 13 together. Number 11, you're going to do negative 4 times 6, so negative 24. M times m times m times m, so that's m to the 4th power, n to the 5th power, times n is n to the 6th power. Number 12, negative 5 times positive 7 is negative 35. Then we're going to have v to the 4th times v, w times w to the 4th, that's w to the 5th, and x to the 3rd times x to the 2nd. Okay, number 13 is a division, and we haven't done that yet. So what I like to do on something like this is I like to make a new fraction bar, and then I'm going to write the numerator out expanded form. And along with that, I'm going to expand this 12. I'm going to write that as a series of factors. And so I think to myself, what is 12? It's 3 times 4. So I'm going to write, there's 4 times 3. So that's 12. It's kind of like we did with radicals, just breaking it down. And that helps a lot when you're simplifying a fraction. And when you get used to this and you've done it a lot more, you may not need to do all of this. But I like to do this especially starting out. Okay, the denominator, the negative 3, I'm going to write that as negative 1 times 3. So pull out the negative as its own number. And then m to the 2nd power, n to the 4th power. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for factors that are common, because if I have 3 divided by 3, it's 1. M divided by m is 1. N divided by n is 1. And so what do I have left? What I have left is on the top I have 2 times 2, which is 4. I have m to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And on the bottom I have negative 1, n to the 3rd. When you're done, you shouldn't have anything as far as like letters that are the same on the top and the bottom, because they should have canceled if they're both on top and bottom. Now the 4 divided by negative 1, I can just simplify that and write it as negative 4. And so this would be the simplified version of number 13. Okay, number 14, 15, and 16. Pause the video and try those, and then I'll show you how to do those. Okay, number 14, you should have gotten negative 15, b to the 3rd, c, f. So the negative 15 comes from 3 times negative 5. The b to the 2nd times b, that's how I get b to the 3rd. The c to the 0, remember, is 1. So when I do c times 1, I just get c, and then times f. Number 15, like we did in the previous problem, I'm going to write this in terms of all of the factors. And 15 I'm going to write as 3 times 5. So then I look for what's in common with the top and the bottom. So the 5s are going to cancel out, and the b's will cancel out, and I'm left with b to the 3rd power over 3. 16 is a power of a power 1, so that's the one where in the beginning I showed you to write it like this. So you can do that, or if you remember that you're supposed to multiply those, that's going to give you the same thing. The danger is just, if in case you think that you should add them, then that will cause some problems. Okay, number 17, go ahead and do that, and then I'll do number 18 with you. Number 17, you're going to do -2. Something with the negatives, I really like to write that out, especially when we're first doing it, because a lot of students will get confused with the negative signs. So the negative times the negative is a positive, and that's going to be a 4. I'm going to have x to the 6th power, and then y to the 2nd power. So that's the correct answer for number 17. Okay, number 18 is a combination of division and power of a power. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So there's some easy ways to do this and some harder ways to do this. So I'm going to show you what I consider the easiest way to do a problem like this. First of all, look inside your parentheses and ask, is there anything that I can simplify within the parentheses? So just clean up what's inside your parentheses first, and then we'll worry about that exponent outside in just a minute. So inside, I'm going to have b to the 7th times c to the 2nd over b to the 3rd times c to the 5th. And so what can I get rid of there? I can cancel b's, and I can cancel a couple of c's. So what I have left is inside the parentheses, I have b to the 4th power over c to the 3rd power. Now that's a lot easier to think about multiplying something like that. So if I have b to the 4th, I'm going to write this out the long way, and you may not need to write it out the long way. You might be able to just do this in your head, and that's fine, but if you don't, you need to understand what your backup plan is. I kind of group them so you can see that you're doing 4 sets of those. So what you have, you're not able to cancel anything from top to bottom, but what you have on the top is you've got 4 and 4 and 4 and 4. You've got 16 B's altogether, and on the bottom you've got 12 C's, and so that's going to be your answer. Okay, pause the video and work out number 19, and if you'll follow the example that I just showed you in number 18, you'll probably be on the right track and hopefully you'll get it right. But go ahead and just try and see how you do, and then come back and see how to do it. Okay, number 19, I'm going to start by simplifying what's inside my radical. And so just like I did in another problem, I'm going to pull that negative out as a -1. And 4 is 2 times 2. And then I'm going to have m to the 5th. On the bottom, 8 is 2 times 4, so it's going to be that. M to the 0 is just 1. I don't need to write times 1. It doesn't make any difference. And then n to the 2nd. That's all inside my parentheses, and I still have the 3 outside. I'll worry about that in a minute. I'm going to cancel what I can, and then I'm going to put this back together. So I'm going to have the -1 m times m times m times m times m. You can write that as m to the 5th if you want. I'm going to leave it so we can see what we're doing when I expand it. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to do to the 3rd power. And so what that means is I'm going to write the same thing 3 times. So I'm just going to repeat myself. So what I have now is I'm going to do -1 times -1 times -1, m to the 5th power to the 5th power to the 5th power, that's 5 and 5 and 5, that's m to the 15th power, over 2 times 2 times 2, n to the 2nd, n to the 2nd, n to the 2nd, that's 6. And so this is my final answer. It's difficult to get an answer like this if you're not cleaning up what's inside your parentheses first. I feel like it makes it a lot harder. There are other ways to do these problems, but this is the way that I think is the easiest way. Okay, pause the video and do 20 through 22. And when you're ready, come back and I will show you how to do each one. Number 20, if I was to write everything out, and again, just to repeat, you do not have to write everything out the long way, but if you're getting the wrong answer, that's going to be something you're going to want to think about. So I'm going to cancel what I have in common and put everything else back together. So I'm going to have a to the 4th power, b to the 7th power, And this d to the 0, that was just 1. That's where that came from. Over c to the 4th power, d to the 2nd power. Number 21, all of this inside the parentheses is to the 0 power, so the answer is 1. Number 22, this is to the 2nd power, but I'm going to clean up what's inside there first. And so I'm just going to make a new fraction bar, and I'm going to break everything down so that I can see what's there and what can cancel. X to the 0 is just 1. Okay, so the 5 and the 3, I can't do anything with that. The x's, I can't do anything with those, but I can cancel some of the y's and one of the z's. So what I have on top is I have 3x to the 5th over 5y z to the 3rd. Now that's going to be to the 2nd power. So one way you can look at this is everything in the parentheses gets that power of 2. So I'm going to have 3 to the 2nd power, x to the 5th to the 2nd power, 5 to the 2nd power, y to the 2nd power, z to the 3rd to the 2nd power. So that's one way you can look at that and then simplify it out. That's one way of doing it. You can also, if that seems like that's a little bit too much to handle at once, then you should just write everything twice. And you can write it out like this, or you can use the exponents. I feel like if you're struggling with this at all, it is probably the best idea to just write it out. So what you're going to have is you're going to have 3 times 3. You're going to have x to the 5th times x to the 5th, which is, if you count those up, that's x to the 10th power. Then you're going to have 5 times 5, which is not 10, it's 25. Y times y. And then z to the 3rd times z to the 3rd. Okay, number 23, we're going to go back to areas now, but this time we're going to give you some different information. So this time we're going to find the height. So remember that the area of a rectangle is base times height. And so this is kind of a puzzle in that I know what the area is and I know what the base is, but I don't know the height. So I'm going to set up my equation. I'm going to say the area is equal to base times height. And I'm just going to put an H right there. Maybe I'll do that in a different color. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to solve for that. So this goes back to our skills from the beginning of the year when I have to get that alone. So it says 4x y to the 3rd times h. So I'm going to divide by 4x y to the 3rd. And so I have to do that on the other side. So on the right-hand side, this is going to cancel with that because they're exactly the same, and I'm left with h. On the left-hand side, this is why we're doing this in this section. So we're going to have 12, which is 3 times 4, x to the 3rd, y to the 2nd, over 4, x, y to the 3rd. So then see what you can cancel. And what you're left with is 3 x to the 2nd over y. And that is the height of this rectangle. Okay, 24. We've got a triangle now. So remember that the area of the triangle is 1/2 base times height. So this time I'm giving you the area and I'm giving you the height. What I don't know is I don't know the base. So I'm going to set up my equation. So 50 a to the 4th, b to the 5th. And actually, going back to the last one, that should be in centimeters. So you need to label that as centimeters because the height is 3x squared over y centimeters. So go back and do that. So the area is 50 a to the 4th, b to the 5th, and then I'll put feet squared like that. Equals, and then 1/2 is part of the formula. The base I don't know, so I'm going to put that in its own color. And then the height, I am told that it's 5a to the 2nd b, and then feet. Actually, let me do that one in green also. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm trying to solve for this b right here. That's what I'm trying to get alone. So I need to get the other things out of there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 2, and that will get rid of the 1/2. So multiply by 2. So 2 times 50 is 100. Okay, so just to kind of color code things, I've got feet squared and feet. And then I've got B is what I'm solving for, because I don't want to get that one confused with that kind of B right there. So I am going to get this red B by itself, so I have to divide by the 5a to the second b feet, and that's going to cancel out. So I have to divide over here by 5a to the second b feet. So looking at what I have on the left, I have 100, which is 10 times 10. I've got a to the fourth, b to the fifth, and feet to the second, over 5, a to the second, b, and then feet. So I can go through and look and see what I can cancel. So 5, so I can cancel that. I can cancel some a's. I can cancel a b, and I can cancel feet. So what I'm left with is I'm left with 2 times 2, which is 4, times 5, which is 20, a to the second, b to the fourth, feet. And there's only a 1. All of these are 1s right there. So if I'm dividing by 1, it doesn't matter. So that's it. You don't put over 1. And so that is the base of the triangle. So 20a squared b to the fourth feet is how long that is right there. Okay, number 25, given the volume. So remember that the volume is equal to length times width times height. And so this time I know the volume, so I know V. I know the length and the height. I don't know the width. So setting up my equation, I'm going to write 144, m to the fifth, n to the sixth, and then I'm going to do meters to the third power. Actually, maybe I won't just do m, I'll just write it out. I don't want to get that confused with this m right there. And that's equal to my length, which is 8m to the second n, and then meters, times my width is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to just do a W for that. And then my height is 6m n to the third. And then that's in meters. So I'm trying to solve for what's red there, and everything else, all the purple and green, that's all being multiplied. So what I can do is I can just divide by 8m to the second n meters times 6m n to the third meters. And that's going to cancel out and then leave me with only a W. So then on the other side, I can write this a little bit shorter because I know that 8 times 6 is 48, so I could do that. And I know that m to the second times m is m to the third. And I know that n times n to the third is n to the fourth. And I know that meters times meters is meters to the second power, because I have to divide by the same thing on both sides. Okay, so what I have is on the right-hand side, I have my W. So on the left-hand side, this is where it's a little bit messy because you've got a lot of things going on. So the 144, I'm going to break that down, and that's 12 times 12. And I know what the factors are, so I'm going to go ahead and break that down even more. So 12 times 12 is 3 times 4, that's 12, and then times another 12. And then I've got m to the fifth, and then I've got n to the sixth, and then I've got meters to the third power. Since I'm running out of room, I'm just going to write that in green. And so that green M is different than the purple M. And then I'm going to have on the bottom, I'm going to have 48. And 48 is 4 times 12. So I'm going to write 4, and then 12 is 4 times 3. So just like we did when we were simplifying radicals, I'm breaking down those numbers into prime factors. You'll find that in this unit, factors are a really important piece of what we're doing. I actually want to do this in purple. So anyway, you'll hear the word factors a lot. Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to cancel what I can. So some of my 2's are going to cancel, and one of my 3's is going to cancel, so that's just leaving me with a 3 on the top. My M's, I'm going to be able to cancel some of those. Oh, whoops, not that one. And then the N's I'll be able to cancel. And then the M to the third power, that's meters, meters, meters over meters, meters. So I'm going to be able to cancel a couple of those. So what I'm left with, I am left with 3. And then I look at everything else, I'm left with M to the second power, N to the second power, meters to the first power. And that's equal to the width of this prism. So this is like a little puzzle. You have to put in the pieces that you know and then work to solve for the pieces that you don't know. Be careful with all of the labels and everything and make sure your answer has labels like it should. And remember that you can always write things out if you get stuck, which is a really good idea.